Journal Live. It's me, Colleen Watson, president of Century Plant Publishing, and we're going to continue the series today about my best books. These are not, new books, the books I'm reading now, the hot list. These are books that I come back to again and again and again for comfort, for inspiration, for all of those things. And I tend to read them about once a year. So I'm sharing those with you because if they're impactful for me, they might be impactful for you. So I'm going to talk about three today that have the potential to go on that list of the books I have on a list to read for the year already. And so two of these are fun. One of these is a business book, so I'm trying to do a good balance of these things. So the first one, I read this book years ago. It's called Agnes and the Hitman. It's by Jennifer Crusie and Bob Mayer. Loved this book. So what I remember most about this book is the very, very first scene has our heroine, Agnes. She is on the phone in her kitchen talking to the uncle of her very best friend because she started a catering company and the uncle is a restaurateur and they're talking about her first big job, which is to cater her goddaughter's wedding. Goddaughter is the daughter of her very best friend, and this is her great uncle that we're talking about. So it's a big deal, and they're talking about food and restaurateuring and typical stuff that you would expect. And all of a sudden, a man comes into her house with a gun and tries to steal her dog. Yes, you heard that right. Tried to steal her dog, who is, I don't remember the breed, but it was not like a Chihuahua. This is like 100-pound, very big dog. And trying to get the dog out, he falls down the stairs of her basement and breaks his neck. That's how the book begins. So we're starting off with a bang, and it only gets better from there. So, but I haven't reread it. I've always remembered that scene, but I found it used at the library recently, and I'm like, okay, well I'm going to reread that whenever I need a joyous, funny, ridiculous book. The next one, I've read his books before, Ryan Holiday. I've never read The Obstacle is the Way. This is a big book. Everybody knows about it. I'm sure you know about it too. I did read his book, Perennial Seller. I haven't read, his other big books like Trust Me, I'm Lying, Ego is the Enemy, So this is kind of my first dip into the four virtue series that he talks about that the Stoics have. He's very big on the Stoics. He has a podcast where all he talks about is Stoic philosophy and how to apply it to real life. If you ever want to listen to that, it's the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. But it's a really good book. The Perennial Seller was a really good book. So I'm hoping I'm going to get into this one about the four virtues. The last one we're going to read is one called Scorched Grace. It's by Margot Douaihy. This is the next series that I think I'm going to get into. I always love a good series. And sometimes series sort of lose their steam. I'm still into Eve Dallas because she's done a good enough job of making me love those characters that I always want to come back and see where things are going. But some of the series that I started off with a bang tend to have peaks and valleys, ups and downs. And you can't help that. No writer is consistent all the time. It's difficult. But this one has a really interesting premise. If she is a lesbian punk rock nun. Yep, you heard that, nun, which is why it kind of looks like a stained glass, who through a series of situations gets involved in this one in a arson investigation. I always love the idea of a typically British thing, which is, say, a Father Brown, and yet making her hard ass and feminine and very American. I love that idea. I always love anybody who takes a familiar trope and kind of updates and really truly modernizes it and turns it on its head. So I'm very excited about this. And there's a sequel coming out this year. So it's going to be my first new series in a really long time that I've allowed myself to get into. So those are hopefully my future best books. We'll see what happens. I might like them, I might not. You never know what's going on. Speaking of new which is Century Plant Business Services. And it is all about my new product, which is how to set up the foundations of your business right. I'm not talking about things like logos and products. I'm talking about things like wills and insurance. It's not glamorous, but nobody talks about how you actually do need to consider those things as well when you start a business and when it starts to grow. Things you're going to need to add on. So this is what we're going to talk about, building you a safety net that you lost when you had a W-2 job. All right. So get on my calendar. Calendarly, so the 30-minute anything session, so that we can talk about how this might work for you, launching a pilot program shortly. Only 5 slots available, and it is at a discount. So if this is something you think you need to want to protect your family, please let's talk. And for everybody else, thank you very much for joining me today. If this is your first stop, thank you for stopping your scroll. If you've been around for a while, I'm so grateful for you. And so remember, rock stars, it is never too late to bloom. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.